right, greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on BlazeTV, radio and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. It's our final show of the week, taking off the rest of the week for our perennial. Is it perennial or annual? What's the proper association?
Annual.
Annual is? Okay. For our annual spring break vacation, which not coincidentally always coincides with the opening first 2 days of the NCAA basketball tournament, something I have been doing since I was a kid. So it's a tradition that Todd and Aaron have inherited. So we are off for the rest of the week. We're trying to get a lot done here today, even wore green for St. Patrick's Day, even though it's not until Friday, because again, we won't be here on Friday.
That's this Friday?
It is this Friday. Man, the time, is flying by.
Oh, no. Okay, we're going to have to hit the could be a leper or could be a crackhead thing later. The Alabama
Oh, that's right.
leprechaun.
Yes.
I forgot to put that in the montage today. I'm so sorry.
Maybe the greatest television report, local television report of all time.
Kick off overtime with it and just soak in it.
Indeed. Also, 30 days from today, Nefarious releases in theaters. So we're kicking that into high gear. Along those lines, we are now taking pre-orders for the movie tie-in edition of my book, A Nefarious Plot. We only have 1,500 of these. Only 1,500, so supplies are going to go limited and hopefully fast. These are autographed copies of A Nefarious Plot with a brand new cover that ties into the movie. You can order these right now at nefariousbook.com. If you're looking for a Mother's Day or Father's Day gift, by the time we're able to fulfill these, it's probably going to be sometime around early to mid-May. So you can take your order now. Nefariousbook.com is where you want to go. 1,500 hardcover copies of A Nefarious Plot, the original book, but it now will tie in to the movie it inspired, Nefarious, and will include my signature, which I thought for sure would lessen the overall value, but the publisher thinks the opposite is true. We shall see. Nefariousbook.com is where you want to go. Nefariousbook.com. Also, where you want to go if you are looking to align your values with your portfolio. Don't have your money at odds with your principles. Check out our friends at Constitution Wealth, investwithcw.com/Steve. Invest with CW for Constitution Wealth. Investwithcw.com/Steve. They'll work with you to create a financial plan that does align your values with your portfolio at investwithcw.com/Steve. All right, the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation. Daniel Horowitz will be joining us a little bit later on the program. We'll get to buy, sell, or hold as well. That's when you get to take over the show and make us respond to you for a change. But let us begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Why Come You Don't Got a Tattoo. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made his first foray into foreign policy the other day, declaring his opposition to the endless money pit of Ukraine. Neocons and general acolytes of the system attacked him like antibodies attack viruses.
And what he did was, I would fully concur, he did massive damage to U.S. solidarity with NATO interests in Europe and our own national security interests. And he told the Russians, hang in there. It's quite likely all we got to do is endure for another 24 months.
And now Ron DeSantis, who says we don't get involved in territorial disputes. So that makes me question, what's his position on Taiwan and China?
Of course, it concerns us because what we are talking about here is the rules-based international order.
Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham were amongst the many right-leaning pukes who smacked DeSantis for his audacity to oppose seemingly limitless funding to Zelensky. The latest Pew survey on Americans' attitudes towards Ukraine shows more people overall think the U.S. is doing too much for Ukraine than those who think America isn't doing enough. And a plurality of Republican voters agree the U.S. indeed is doing too much. Again, that's a survey from Pew Research in January. The DeSantis administration has stripped a major Miami hotel of its liquor license after hosting a Christmas-themed drag queen show in December with children present, despite the warnings. The Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation warned the Hyatt Regency Miami against hosting a quote-unquote sexually explicit show with children present, but the hotel did anyway. Now the hotel can't make money selling alcohol. Diehard Trump supporter and general human debris Laura Loomer posted this doctored photo on her Twitter account yesterday. I blurred part of it out. The photo shows a line of people, some of whom you would know, possibly posing for a photograph. The doctored bit changed the look of the knees of DeSantis comms director Christina Pushaw, giving the photo a sexual subtext. Others quickly pointed to and reproduced the original photo, which makes this absolute garbage from certain Trump fanatics who shared and defended the doctored photo. Speaking of Trump, we're commemorating this dubious anniversary today since we're off tomorrow. March 16th is the 3-year anniversary of this moment.
And this afternoon, we're announcing new guidelines for every American to follow over the next 15 days. As we combat the virus, each and every one of us has a critical role to play in stopping the spread and transmission of the virus. We avoid gathering in groups of more than 10 people, avoid discretionary travel, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and public food courts.
President, a lot of people are concerned about how long all of this might last. Do you have any kind of estimate that if Americans really were to band together and do what the White House is suggesting, how quickly you could turn this corner?
My favorite question, I ask it all the time. How many times, Anthony, I think I ask him that question. People are talking about July, August, something like that.
So is this the new normal until the height of the summer?
We'll see what happens.
Joe Biden yesterday announced a new executive order, which he says he hopes will make it harder for you to buy a gun without any legislation being passed.
In the meantime, my executive order directs my Attorney General to take every lawful action possible to move us as close as we can to universal background checks without new legislation.
Last month, a girls' high school basketball team for Mid-Vermont Christian School made waves after they announced they would be foregoing the opportunity they had earned to play in the state's high school basketball tournament because it would mean they'd have to play against a dude on one of the other teams. Well, this week there's an update to that story. On Monday, Vermont Principals Association, or VPA, that's the organization which controls high school sports in the state, sent a letter to the Christian school, which stated that because the school made no bones about why they pulled out of the tournament, they are henceforth banned from any athletic events organized by the Vermont Principals Association. The VPA says basically it's because they're a bunch of transphobes. Learning Chinese today, today's phrase is Happy Women's Month, except for those girls from Vermont, screw them.
妇女节快乐，除了佛蒙特州的那些女孩。
This is a clip from the animated Netflix show Ridley Jones, which is targeted at very young children.
But this can't wait any longer. If I'm going to lead the herd, I want to do it as myself. After all, you always say to lead with your heart, right? Well, my heart says that the way I feel most myself is to go by the name Fred. That's because I'm non-binary, and Fred is the name that fits me best. And I also use they and them because calling me a she or a he doesn't feel right to me. Oh, I didn't know that.
Good luck to the 4-year-olds trying to keep that straight. And finally, this from the Babylon Bee. Op-ed by David French. The government has no right to tell parents not to put their kids in a washing machine. And that's what happened while we were away.
I'm going to have a lot to say in response to that montage, and it's going to probably please no one. No one. So let me do this then. Pour one if you've got one. All right, got any Bonner Private Wines hanging around? If you're watching this live, you're going to listen to this later on a podcast. I'm just telling you, I'm coming in hot. All right. Going to step on a lot of toes, smash a lot of shibboleths in response to that montage. So, great opportunity. You might need to relax after what you're about to hear with our friends over at Bonner Private Wines. Outstanding foreign wines from Malbec grapes grown about 9,000 feet of altitude deep in the Andes Mountains. Families that have been going on a second century of doing this now. The old-fashioned way, not the new factory way. If you want to take advantage of their outstanding offer, it now includes a bonus bottle of small batch limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar, giving you 4 bottles for the price of 3, and they'll give you half off that price on top of that. Half off the price and half off the shipping too, which is a big deal when we're talking about foreign wines. All right. If you want to take advantage of this, go to bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve today. BONNER. at bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve today. So that montage, in many respects, is I'm watching that unfold. It's a complete encapsulation of the era in which we are in. Completely, totally. Everything in this era can be summarized by what we're up against. And frankly, who we are in opposition to it. Or maybe pretend opposition in many cases. Here we have a guy, human, imperfect, therefore flawed, actually attempting to take scalps. Actually attempting to punish that which we are up against. What is the purpose and role of government? Scripturally. What does Romans 13 say? It is to bring the sword of righteousness against the evildoer. This is something we have seen Ron DeSantis do repeatedly in Florida. Punish people for doing bad. Force them to face accountability. Two days ago, he was told, or he was characterized by his closest campaign rival as being a disciple of Paul Ryan, which is a total lie. He's one of the founding members of the Freedom Caucus. And then basically all of Paul Ryan's globalist buddies are trashing him for his foreign policy position on Ukraine. Then one of his spokespeople is attacked by another woman, by the way. Another woman. I don't know how else to put it, essentially slut-shamed, marking up her knees to make it look like she spent a lot of time on them. That's what Aaron filtered out of that. Just trashy. I mean, it's as white trash as it gets, man. Just white trash. That's what it is. And she supposedly represents the armies of light that are going to help us take on this darkness. Meanwhile, on the other side of the septic tank, you have a dementia-rattled president projecting the perfect metaphor for this decline and fall, late republic nonsense era we are living in. Just, at this point, looking for opportunities to erode whatever is left of our foundations, our social compacts, with a governing philosophy of, we're just going to do it even if it's illegal and we'll dare the courts to stop us. So I'm just going to nullify the Second Amendment by executive order. On top of that, if you're a woman who dares to say these are only supposed to be opportunities for women and it is not fair to have us compete against men who are not women, 70 years of feminism have brought you to your band. The guy gets your spot. I like them apples. Reckless abandon. Reckless abandon. Netflix, which is one of the largest platforms on planet Earth, just openly grooming children. Openly grooming them. So over there, literally all hell is breaking loose. Literally hell is breaking loose. Hell is empty, for all the devils are here. Pedal to the metal, doesn't matter. We will pursue the outcomes we want, regardless of blowback or consequences, and we really don't think there'll be any anyway. On the side of the septic tank in which we live, the argument is by people who claim to be serious, who claim to care seriously about the country. I'm a nationalist. But I don't care that it's the 3-year anniversary of Donald Trump making the dumbest, most immoral management decision in the history of humanity. And is not apologetic for it in the least. And that's before he made the second dumbest and most immoral management decision in American history in Operation Warp Speed. We want to mock the other guys for still wearing masks on planes and not taking Steve Kirsch's $100,000? There are people in this audience who got poisoned by Operation Warp Speed and just can't wait to do the time warp again because Cheeto Jesus saves. Nah, let's just take all the idols. Steve, you have a movie coming out in 30 days and you need all this. Bleep that noise. Smash them all to talcum powder, to dust. The literal gates of the black gates of Mordor are open. And the best we got is run it back with the guy who's unapologetically open the gates. Open them. Some of you won't like this. Because some of you's calculus isn't based on any outcome but only elections. On the other side, they only care about generations. Guess who's winning? Donald Trump is the Jar Jar Binks of this story, folks. I'm going to vote to censor emergency powers. I nominate Palpatine. You say people are going to die? He's the useful idiot. He's the Jar Jar Binks of the story. Standing up there in that video with Anthony Fauci, demonic. Deborah Birx ought to be put on trial where the penalty is to be hung by her bedazzled scarf. After a fair trial, of course. Please make sure over at Media Matters you put that part in at the end. I'll sue you faster than Charlie Kirk could say UC Davis if you don't. And his acolytes, the best we got. They're grooming the kids on Netflix. They pumped Joe Biden full of so much Adderall just to get him to sign an executive order. That's probably a 50-50 clip will ever survive at the Supreme Court. Who knows? Just eliminating amendments to the Constitution. And but here's what we got. Jeb Bush stood behind Ron DeSantis at an inauguration, and Laura Loomer's knee pads meme for Christina Pushaw. That's what we have to offer, is that? Then you all deserve exactly what is coming to you. And mark my words, it's coming hard and coming in hot. And it doesn't give a runny turd about your shibboleths, your popularity contests, your Trump prophecies that never came true. This isn't a joke. This is real. That poison that he doesn't want to apologize for, people are dead. They're not coming back. Their kids are dead. They're not coming back. Your hearing is gone. It's not coming back. Is this on? But hey, we drew some knee pads. We made a meme. Meanwhile, over here, go tell your parents, because I learned from a cow on Netflix, I'm non-binary, and have them cut your balls off before you're 5. I don't know why there's so much opposition to David French. He's who we are! Pretending to be something we're not. Now, in his case, he's pretending to be one of us. But you know what? Many of us are too. Many of us are too. We're pretending to. We just want a talking point. We just want a meme. We're going to get rolled. Rolled. You know how many times I've heard from somebody that has Christian in their bio? I believe one of the commandments is not to bear false witness, correct? Is that one of the commandments?
It is.
It is. And didn't Jesus say that you know a tree by its fruit? Right. Did he say you know a tree by what it grows next to? Is that what he said?
No.
No. Did he say you know a tree by who likes the fruit of the tree and thinks it's tasty? Is that what he said?
No.
No, he said you know a tree by the fruit that it actually produces, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing else. That was it, right?
That's it.
Simple standard.
Yeah.
Not easy apparently though, but simple. How many tweets I've already received from people? I understand that. Okay, let's just, and I always come back with, let's assume that is true. What about his actual record do you disagree with? See, this isn't even about a guy named Ron DeSantis. I don't even know this cat. But if we had social media in Josiah's time, same thing would have happened. It doesn't matter to me that he went to the high places and tore down the Asherah poles. What matters to me is the third pauper in his court posted a meme and I don't like him. So you're just not serious. And you know how many of these people always have an answer? None of them ever do. None. If you think I'm going to take it easy on you these next few months, you are gravely mistaken. Oh no. It may be too late. Frankly, I suspect that it is. And I have no concerns if it is. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. If it is too late, it's not as if we don't deserve it to be. But just in case it's not, let me tell you what won't work. Let me tell you what we'll lose. I don't know what will win. I don't, man. I don't. I will tell you, though, what we'll lose. Stupid. Dumbasses are going to lose. I promise you. Dumbass loses in every history book. I just want to be left alone. I want it to be comfortable and easy. Loses in every history book ever written. Dumb and complacent is no way to go through life, patriot. And if that's you, you're not one. Ask yourself this question. Tomorrow, on the 3rd year anniversary of 15 days to flatten the curve, Do you think Donald Trump will show you any level of remorse at all? You got more remorse out of Gretchen Whitmer yesterday. I'll take things you should never say because it's not good for clicks, Alex. I don't give a turd. I don't care because it's true, so I'm going to say it. I mean, she's literally a demonic construct. She actually has shown more self-awareness. We don't have time. We just don't. We don't have any more time for people who talk a good game at their rallies, but then when they get punched in the face by the spirit of the age, are just like, cool, roll over. We don't have any more time for that. Maybe you think we've got all kinds of time. I guess we just disagree. We made white trash memes, and I gave a bunch of drain the swamp speeches, but then I stood up at a podium with Anthony Fauci and drained your swamp instead. I'm sorry. If you think that's got any chance at all to be any kind of a threat to the level of evil we're up against, man, it's laughing at us. Laughing. It's pissed itself laughing at us. The Black Gate is open. The orcs are pouring out. And we're standing around masturbating to memes. And pretending like Trump did not make these decisions and owes no recompense for them. I don't understand that. I don't. And I never want to. Don't try to make me understand it. You'll be dumb. I'll crush you. Not because I'm brilliant. You're just that dumb. So it'll be easy. So don't try it. We're playing for serious stakes here. Serious. Are we serious about this? Because I know they are. Serious as a Trump vaccine-induced myocarditis heart attack. I can promise you that. Real serious. Deathly serious stakes we're playing for here. Who knows? Could be July or August. I don't know when you'll ever get your businesses back. I don't know. I saved 100 million people. Get the bleep out of here, man. Are you kidding me with this? That's our answer? That's our answer. That's the best we're going to offer up against literally the gates of hell? That? Good luck. Continue to get excellent reviews for our friends over at Eden Pure. Their Thunderstorm air purifier kills and eliminates odor, mold, mildew, even some bacteria and viruses as well. Their thunderstorm air purifier, it is filterless, so you won't have to change the filter or pay for that out of pocket after you make the purchase. And right now you can save $200 on their 3-pack for whole home protection. 3 units for under $200, fraction of the cost compared to the other ones on the market that probably aren't as good anyway. All right, get the 3-pack right now for under $200 when you go to EdenPureDeals.com and put in the discount code STEVE. Discount code STEVE at EdenPureDeals.com. They'll also give you free shipping as well. Free shipping as well with the discount code STEVE at EdenPureDeals.com. Once again, that is EdenPureDeals.com. I want to follow up with this because I ran out of time. I have more to say. I want to get to the situation in Vermont. Is there only one Christian school in Vermont? I mean, I know it's the Bernie Sanders state, but maybe it's a small state. Maybe there's only one. I mean, I don't know. Okay.
I doubt it.
But I doubt it.
I know there's Catholic schools, so let's start there.
So why haven't I seen, and maybe it's happened, and if it has, please, by all means, send me the news, Steve at stevedeace.com. Where's the rest of their Christian brethren coming to their defense? Is there at least one Christian at the school that put this bearded lady insanity on display that the Christian school refused to compete against? Do you think there's got to be one person who professes Christ in that school, right? One of them. Mm-hmm. One of them has to. Did they come forward and say a word? They come forward in defense? Well, Steve, what can one person do? I'll tell you what one person can do. One day, a tiny little monk left his monastery and visited Rome, the central hub of power in the world. Came upon the Colosseum and he heard the cheering and the frolicking and he wondered what's going on in there. So he went inside. And what he saw horrified him. He was witnessing the gladiator games, complete human savagery. And he watched a bloodthirsty crowd that outnumbered him tens of thousands to one. Relish in it. So he begins to say from within the crowd, in the name of Christ, he says in Latin, in the name of Christ, forbear. Stop. Nobody pays attention to him. He says it louder. People start turning around. Who's this little dude? Where's he get off? And they think it's a joke. He goes down to the arena. In the midst of the festivities, he goes down onto the grounds of the Colosseum. And now they think that this is part of the show. He's basically a court jester. He's the levity entertainment. But as he continues to say now, more seriously and louder, in the name of Christ, stop. Now they realize this is not part of the routine. This is serious. He's serious. The crowd boos, hisses, jeers loudly, turns on him. In response, one of the combatants runs him through with his sword right there in front of the entire crowd. And he dies. However, that act and the rubber band blowback, reverb, response to his murder made that the last day that the gladiator games ever took place at the Roman Colosseum. His name, that little monk, is Telemachus. His name is remembered. We don't know the name of the fiend that ran him through on his sword. Don't know the names of anybody in the crowd that jeered as he pled for them to stop what they're doing and then cheered as they watched him bleed out. We don't know any of their names. Many of them are probably in hell as we speak. But we know on the authority of God's word that Telemachus, he got a crown of glory for what he did. Don't tell me one person can't make a difference. You're out there, we need election integrity, but one person can't make a difference. It's a little bit like only Trump can save us, but he can't also be held accountable for any of the crap decisions he made because it was just too daunting of a task to go up against the whole system. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, not especially not since he said he was the only one who could save.
He's the only one that can do all these things, yet we can't count on him to do these things because the swamp's just too daunting. You're just in a cult, man. You're in a celebrity cult. And that's coming from a guy that frankly worked harder to get Donald Trump reelected in 2020 than he did. We were the show yelling at him, send in the guards, start killing these thugs rioting in the streets, start arresting and killing them now. Let's go. What are we doing here? This is America, not Chaz. Let's roll. We don't let foreign incursions on our soil. Did he do that though? No. We were the ones yelling and screaming, open the country back up. This is a scam. Stop surrendering your presidency to Anthony Fauci. Fire his demonic ass. Did he do that, though?
He did not.
He did not, no. Yeah, we worked harder to get him reelected than he did, even on the election integrity issue. Stop following this bizarre Dominion tale you couldn't possibly unearth. Even if it's all true, you couldn't possibly connect every one of these dots before the Electoral College meets. It's not possible. Argue over the chain of custody of those ballots. Where did they come from? Who signed off on them? Why are they all so uniform? Did we not do that too?
We did.
Yes. Did he do that?
He didn't.
He did not. So yeah, hell yeah. I worked harder to get Donald Trump reelected in 2020 than he did. What is our true level of commitment here? Why did any of the dads, I'm sorry, if you let your daughter be subjected to that, you're not a dad. You suck. You're not even a man. What are you? You're nothing. Whereas every Christian in Vermont, every pastor, and yeah, I know it's Vermont. It ain't many, but there's always a remnant. I bet you it's at least a few hundred. I'll bet you it's at least a few thousand. Instantly coming to the aid of this school, defending them. Well done, good and faithful servants. You know, in the biblical model, both judgment and mercy and grace both actually begin in the church. We hold ourselves accountable before we hold the world accountable. But then we also support ourselves before we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Our most immediate neighbor are our own brothers and sisters. Never give up doing good, Paul says, especially to one another, especially to one another, especially to one another, especially to one another. If you're a pastor and you have nothing to say in support of your brothers and sisters who took that stance yesterday, that valiant stance, and paid a cost. Those athletes, they worked hard all season to get to this point. It was taken from them unjustly. And you've got 50 meetings this morning about community outreach, and you've got nothing to say in support. You're not a pastor, at least not of this gospel. You're something else. And I say that on the authority not of my own, of the Word of God itself. Where are their supporters? Where are their brothers and sisters? Don't you dare go into a church in Vermont this weekend and take communion if you were silent. Don't put your hand in the air when they play the music. Don't. You're a poser. Write David French on your name tag. He is your true father. As we sit here on the 3rd anniversary of this still never-ending evil, as we look at the excess death numbers around the world, and I'm being told just to ignore it all because it'll be good for clicks in business. Nope. I'm sorry Ron DeSantis is the only person trying, literally the only public official in the country attempting to get any justice at all for what happened. He's the only one. That's not my fault. That's theirs. He's got the only health department that has told the truth about the jabs. And even they've told it rather tepidly. It's just they look like a 20/20 vision in the land of the blind. Joe Ladapo looks like Albert Schweitzer when everybody else is Helen Keller. He's Joan of Arc when surrounded by eunuchs. Only state with a grand jury. But it's okay. Doesn't matter. It's okay. It's okay you got poisoned. It's okay that your family business will never come back. And it's okay your kids are never going to recover from the time taken away from them because Jeb Bush stood behind Ron DeSantis at his inauguration. You're not a serious person. You're not. And someone needs to tell you. So I'm going to nominate myself for the job. You're not serious. You know a tree by its fruit. The last few years, what has Trump done to help us win arguments? No, he toured the country with Bill O'Reilly and lectured you on his jab. Did that instead. Brought Woody Johnson up on stage the very day he got cited for his unsafe jab because he's got a ton of money. I'm sorry, I cannot be silent in the face of this stuff. I don't know how some of you can be. I don't. And don't tell me I don't have anything to lose. My company's over $1 million in debt to finance this movie. Over $1 million in debt to finance this movie. And that's on top of the money that we actually came up with amongst our own investors to pay for it. I have employees. I have an expectation level I have to meet from an audience size and everything else. The Blaze has invested nearly $2 million in this show for the next 3 years. I don't understand how you can just be quiet. I don't. What I do understand, though, is that's exactly what the enemy wants. I do know that. I know that. I do know the spirit of the age loves this Donald Trump. Yeah. No self-awareness at all. And just try to personally destroy the one person who cleaned up all the messes you left us. Doesn't want a self-aware Donald Trump, a repentant one, who's actually willing to look at the data of the carnage of what his initiative created and is still what is still ongoing, and therefore motivates him. Like John Newton was motivated as a slave trader, gets born again, and then ends up writing the greatest hymn ever written. Doesn't want that Trump. Doesn't want that one. Wants the one you all want to worship. Loves it, in fact. Doesn't even care if he wins. They'll just roll him if he gets in there. That's what they did half the time anyway. Hey, no trannies. Joint Chiefs are like, we're going to have trannies. Trump's like, peace out. Right?
Yeah.
How many times did we see that? A lot. Don't say a word. I mean, did you guys read the accounts in Vermont about how this guy was slowing down? Did you guys see this?
No.
Or is it Vermont or Massachusetts is the one I'm talking about, maybe? It's Massachusetts.
Yeah.
The one in Massachusetts where the guy who was literally mocking them.
Yeah.
Mocking them, slowing down to mock them. Anybody in those stands that calls themselves a dad who just allowed that to happen and had nothing to say, I won't even tell you what any other generation of Americans would have done in this situation. Which is why this situation would have never happened to them. And if you sat there while that guy just mocked your daughters, I'm ashamed of you. And so should everybody else be. You're pathetic. Write David French on your name badge.
Unless all you red staters think just because it's over there, that's why it's happening. This is the point Steve's trying to make. I have zero confidence that right here in red state Iowa that you wouldn't have a bunch of dudes also clapping for it.
Neither do I. Neither do
Zero.
I. Yeah, I don't either. I don't. How do you guys think this stuff's going to go away? What would possibly make Netflix stop doing what it's doing with shows like that? Getting punished for it. Whom will do the punishing? I came in a pretty good mood actually this morning. That montage, man. I did not intend to go here. But you know what? I'm off the next 2 days. I don't talk to you again until Monday. You may frankly like that after the last hour. But we got to be honest with ourselves. We're not being honest with ourselves. All right, I got to relax, man. Okay, I got to chill.
I forgot to tell you, I've got the Crichton Leprechaun ready to go if you want it.
That montage triggered me. I mean, seeing him up on the stage, reliving all of that. I mean, I just I had to get my composure because I'm gonna lose. I've already lost it probably, but just let us know what you think about what we think. Steve at stevedeace.com is the email address. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me on Truth Social at Real Steve Deace there. Don't forget DEACE is how to spell the last name. If you are a podcast listener, please, if you don't mind, leave us a 5-star review. If you like the show, of course. I would imagine there may not be a lot of 5-star reviews after today's show. If you're a sadomasochist and you really enjoyed that first hour, then maybe this is your day to send us a 5-star review. Who knows? Thanks to all of you that have done that. You can also hit subscribe or follow as well. Man, that montage just set me off. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends over at My Patriot Supply. Who knows? When we'll get the next time, we'll say, that's the dumbest and most immoral management decision we've ever seen. My guess is it's just around the corner. So make sure you are prepared with our friends over at My Patriot Supply. Get their 3-month emergency food kit. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks and drinks. The full complement of the 2,000 plus calories that you need and require. They'll have that ready for you. These kits stay good for well over 20 years with proper storage as well. And you can get a $200 bonus gift from My Patriot Supply of survival gear as well. That way you're even... Your tote's prepared now when it goes down, all right? Free shipping, that's a big deal too. They'll throw in free shipping for you. If you go to mypatriotsupply.com, again, head over to mypatriotsupply.com. All right, let's get to one of our favorite segments this week, and hopefully it's lighthearted. Buy, sell, or hold. This is with when Aaron, with a little help from his friends, actually a lot of help from his friends, you in the audience, puts Todd and I on the spot. You and I, Todd, will decide as these come up one by one, none of which we've seen in advance. Are we going to buy that? Are we going to sell it? We are not permitted to use a hold at all because that would be a dude code violation and be considered punking out. If indeed you do try to use the hold, you've got to go back and listen to that first hour all over again. That's your penalty.
Wow.
Line up some shots of vinegar. That's maybe more my speed, actually. That's my happy place.
Where's the downside?
Those that we do not get to, and notice I won't say leftovers because Aaron just picks the ones that he likes, then doesn't put them in any kind of order. Whichever ones we don't get to, we will do bonus buy, sell, or hold in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers. If you're not yet a Blaze TV subscriber, become one at blazetv.com/Deace. blazetv.com/Deace is also where you can go if you are a Blaze TV subscriber to watch the bonus buy, sell, or hold later today. Just $10 a month to become a Blaze TV subscriber. blazetv.com/Deace. Aaron.
We'll begin with this. Buy, sell, or hold the baggy shorts phase of college basketball.
So I'm going to sell. I think they were, I grew up loving the Fab Five, and they kind of brought the baggy shorts in, but these were even baggier than. They basically wore the Bermuda shorts, not the short shorts, the hot shorts is what the Fab Five wore. This era from the late 90s to about 2010, those things are basically pants, man. I mean, down to like your hamstrings, a little too long for me. I don't want to see guys in hot shorts, don't get me wrong, but I mean, they're basically out here wearing, Chicago White Sox sweatpants from the 70s. Your thoughts, Todd? I'm selling.
I'm absolutely selling.
Yeah, I'm a sell too. Nobody asked me, but I'm still a sell. We'll also begin with Mason Lane, who says David French and Phil Vischer announced they're in a romantic relationship by November of 2024. Aren't they already?
That's our opening salvo. Is that? Oh my gosh!
We're gonna find something out.
What? Yeah, that's the truest thing that might have been said today, Todd. Actually. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes ... there will be another major bank collapse before the end of the year.
I'm going to sell because I thought you were going to say the end of the month. So I'm going to... You're way too optimistic. I'm going to sell. And so, but here's the thing of the era in which we live. Are we witnessing bank collapses? Just stick with me for a second here, okay? See... Unlike the former president, I actually paid attention to what went on the last few years, and I'm going to be actually self-aware and change my line of thinking in response to changing circumstance, as opposed to egotistically just hold on to a fanciful narrative that isn't true now, and won't ever be true in the future, because contemplating anything else might mean I made a mistake once. Right? That's a difference. Okay, so. Are we witnessing banking collapses, or are we witnessing the economic reality hitting woke Inc.? And so we are being sold that what's taking place here are banking collapses to justify just the system bailing out its own people. You know what I'm trying to say? Is this an actual collapse like 2008?
Or is it managed decay?
Or is it a manufactured crisis? Because the reality is, if you own a bank that literally just took $76 million and lit it on fire, Heath Ledger Joker style, by giving it to Black Lives Matters and those kinds of causes. Yeah, that's just not that's not reality. Right. You can't live in the real world. Things don't function like this. You can't do that. Yeah. Okay. And so now Uncle Bingo, the check comes due for doing things like that. And so we're being sold it's a banking collapse, so they can then justify, because something must be done. We don't want to run on banks. We don't want to panic. All right. And so this is the new mask. This is the new jab. This is the new lockdown, the new violation of reality and all of your rights and the social compact because of a unforeseen crisis. And really, it's just simply about they just need an excuse to bail themselves out. to bail out their own people.
Yeah,
so is it a banking collapse or is it that?
Well, it's that. I mean, one of these banks, their risk management person was basically just a woke
exactly
DEI person who's at a university.
Yep.
That's by design.
Yeah.
And then when, Moody's comes out and talks about the banking industry as a whole and how it's reclassifying it, well, that's the thing. You don't even know if Moody's has been co-opted. Like, if their standards for what the health of a bank industry, if it's loaded with all kinds of environmental things that they say is now built into it, then it's definitely the latter. Because risk management, Steve, it's like you, and you said the lessons you've learned over time of betting on sports, and you tried to get rid of the too smart by half. Like, oh, this looks dumb, I'm smarter. And you're like, no, you just had to, they know, because it's not about it. It's just about it. It's flat out the science of the numbers. Well, we've given way on, when was the science about anything?
Mm-hmm.
So why should it be here?
It's all narrative.
Yes.
Everything is a narrative.
Yes.
And so, again, I ask, are we undergoing some form of a banking collapse, or is this just these institutions are being confronted with the economic realities of living in in woke fantasy land? And so we need to come up with a narrative that justifies just paying out our cronies, and that doesn't cause you to shoot us, basically, because you're paying more for eggs than you've ever paid in your entire life, while we're going to bail out all of the Silicon Valley bank investors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so this is the narrative, is we're being just sold a panic, right? Just like you were sold at this point in time. Here's what I think.
That's exactly what's happening.
Here's what I think. There's certain inflection points where from that time forward, good or bad, you have a tendency to compare everything to the reality of that moment that you lived through in life. A Pearl Harbor, a Watergate, right? That's why every scandal has been for the rest of our lives. I think I was like, I had just come out from my mom's womb at Watergate. Okay. But every scandal I've ever heard has been called gate to the rest of my life, because it's an inflection point for people, right? The government allowing you to die rather than giving you hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin so that it could justify an emergency use authorization for a toxic poison that under 8 previous iterations Moderna had attempted to bring to market and failed all 8 until this time. That's my inflection point. That's my point where I kind of say, you know what? If they're going to do that, then what would they not do? What would they not do? Right?
Yeah.
What would they not do? And so if they're willing to just kill you and let you die in order to get their toxic product on the market that then is far more likely to kill you if you take it than help you. If they're willing to do that, then I have no idea why we wouldn't just be lied to about something as fungible as money. I mean, we can always just print more. Something as fungible as money. Hey, yeah, we don't do this, the banks will fail. We wouldn't want that, right? When really it just means we're just gonna bail out our cronies because we do that. The people you elect, they poison you and they're totally unrepentant about it. We don't do that over on our team. On the other side of the septic tank, we bail everybody out. We take care of our own. We don't roll like that here. So there's also that. I'm still not over last hour, I guess, after all. So thank you.
That's fine.
See, your point about the panic, I mean, this is all just panic driven. The panic is almost completely like it was in the early days of March of 2020. Okay? It's just on a smaller scale and not being amplified quite as much. The panic is completely the same. Over the weekend, I saw people purportedly posting videos of some random bank with a line going out of it. In the early days of March of 2020, we saw
burning bodies in Italy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to be able to answer what was the mustard seed of what caused this panic in the first place. Sounds a little bit like How do you flatten a curve if you don't know when the curve began?
Yeah,
so there's a red flag for you immediately. And then you add on to that this week, Barney Frank, who sat on the board of Signature Bank, said this was a concerted effort by the regulators to send an anti-crypto message. You know, Signature Bank was one of those that failed this week. I've also heard that there were buyers. There were buyers for both SVB and Signature Bank, but you know, the radicals at the FDIC kind of had their own agenda. So, yeah, there's something more going on here than just typical bank failures. C.W. Smith says the Marvel Cinematic Universe will not make it to Phase 6.
I'll sell because there's too many people. It's the same argument we just had.
Yeah.
There's too many people with too much investment wrapped up. Okay. I will tell you, though, that they are facing economic realities. And Ant-Man 3 is not a great movie. It's also, though, like the first actual Marvel movie that they have made in 4 years. Meaning their traditional formula, okay? It's one of the weaker iterations of it. I mean, I have no clue why Bill Murray's in the movie, and what the point of putting him in the movie was just to say, maybe we want to put Bill Murray in our movie. Cool. All right. But it's not well done. But it's the actual Marvel formula that made them so popular. Nevertheless, this may end up being the least financially successful non-COVID release in the history of the MCU. I think it is very clear that they have exhausted the patience and the latitude masses of people are willing to give them is running short. And this last phase of just checking representation boxes, having no narrative, making shows because of people just represent people's groups. Let's have a Muslim superhero. Let's do that no one's ever heard of. I mean, all that other stuff they did. It's clear they've Silicon Valley banked themselves. You know, but I don't think that it will go away. I do think, though, you're watching it slowly fade without a serious course correction. And the real test will be Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when it comes out in May. That's one of their most potent brands. It's got maybe the most popular movie star in America right now, Chris Pratt, who's a beloved figure. I think that will be a true test to see whether, if it makes a really good movie, assuming it is, if it makes a really good movie, can it still generate what we're accustomed to? But it's clear it's no longer invulnerable. I do think that's clear, but I think you're going too far, so I'll sell.
Yeah, I'm selling because it's not just a Marvel thing. The superhero enterprise. Listen, this is what that body politic wants. Steve's made the argument. There's still, even in Vermont, there still should be a bunch of Christians who stand up. There should be a lot of superhero fans who are just like, you're killing this. Look at the greatness we just. That's not happening. It's been totally overtaken, just like everything else has. And now it's going to have its own little zombie apocalypse, and it's going to wander on indefinitely. And long enough to make us forget that the original even happened. So it already seems like fiction. Did we watch that? No, it's going to be bad for a while because a lot of you are okay with that.
Well, it's not as many lot of views as it used to be. That's true.
It's still way too many.
Yeah.
Next up, Mini Bomber says, if you look back at Mel Gibson's filmography, it's reasonable to assume he's a modern-day prophet. Braveheart, The Patriot Signs, We Were Soldiers, Conspiracy Theory, Ransom, Apocalypto, Mad Max, Edge of Darkness, The Passion, Father Stew.
That is something.
I never thought of that before. Yeah.
I mean, that's prophetic. You connecting all those dots like that. Who was that? Give that person some credit.
Mini Bomber.
I mean, that's insanely insightful, dude. I mean, all right, I'm like Aragorn, man, bowing to the hobbits. We bow to you. All right. I mean, That's wow. You just blew my mind. I got to buy that, man. Absolutely.
He's always had something different to say. Listen, he's a lot like Russell Brand. Both guys clearly had demons that have overtaken them at times, and both admitted. But both also have just been rejecting the status quo for a long time, while finding a way to tiptoe through the raindrops enough to build a level of status. There's others like that. They're not all the same. Tom Cruise embodies that to some extent. Denzel Washington, to some extent. Now, Denzel Washington, as far as we know, his demons never overcame him. But yeah, he's. You watch a lot of those movies. He's been doing everything he can to message, to use the platform to save something beyond the dreck we just got done talking about that overtook the superhero movies.
Well said. Go now to Ken Haidt, who says, no conference champion or automatic bid should be forced to play in one of the play-in games in the NCAA tournament. So I just learned this. It's actually beneficial for some of these really small teams who have never been to the tournament before to actually play in the play-in game, because every game you win, you get a check from the NCAA, a pretty big check for the next 6 or 7 years. Yeah,
and it might be the only time you'll ever be able to have in your media guide program, your archives, that you won an NCAA tournament game.
Yeah.
But so for that reason, I will sell. But I don't think this is, without that financial incentive that you just described, I could definitely see there being more value in having the last 8 power teams play in themselves. You know what I'm saying? Kind of play the Hunger Games to get in themselves. I could definitely see a value in that, in that too. It's just, I think probably the person who made this proposal doesn't understand the financial incentive that Aaron just articulated, so they're only looking at it from a competitive standpoint, right? And so because of that financial incentive, and that's big money to a school like Texas Southern or Texas A&M Corpus Christi, right? Or, that's big money to them. So for that reason, I'll sell, even though I don't think, minus that incentive, it's a terrible idea at all. I think it'd be very interesting.
It's not a terrible idea, but there shouldn't be any play-in games.
Well, that too. In fact, you know what I would actually do, and I've said this for years. No other tournaments. I expand the field to 128. I take every regular season conference champion and every conference tournament champion every year. They get automatic bids. So I'm re-emphasizing the regular season again. Okay. And by the way, that also means in a given year, I don't know how many at-large berths I have. Because if, a Texas Southern wins their conference in the regular season and loses in the tournament, suddenly I've got one less at-large bid because I've got to take 2 automatics from that conference. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm re-emphasizing the 3 months of the regular season in college basketball. I add mystery on Selection Sunday because in any given year, you might have 40 at-large bids, 35, 52. You don't know how many you're going to have, okay? And so I think that adds more variance and more excitement. How many at-large bids do we even have? And then we get rid of all these other tournaments, starting with the NIT, that are all mediocre, trash, and completely un-American. None of them exist, and this is the only event that takes place in the month.
Steve, I've heard you say this multiple times, and it occurred to me last night. I kind of had an epiphany. You are completely incorrect about the NIT and the CBI. What is more American than bailing out failing and mediocre entities? There is nothing more.
You guys aren't going to let me get over that montage today. I'm just going to get pissed off over and over again. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm arguing on behalf of a country that no longer exists. Thank you. I am ashamed.
We're bailing them out either way, whether the NIT exists or you expand to 100. You double it. Just that has nothing to do with competition. That just has to do with more money.
Next up, we go to Francisco Dianconia, who says, I know the system won't let this happen, but anti-vax Democrat Kennedy beats pro-vax Republican Trump in a general election.
I actually agree with that. You're going to get every Democrat voter. And I think you're going to get... Tell me what constituency that Trump underperformed with in 2020. Here's the thing, guys. Okay, again, at this point, let's just let the freak flag fly. In 2016, Donald Trump won the presidential election by a combined 78,000 votes in 4 states. Not 78,000 votes per state. That would be insane in and of itself, right? 78,000 total votes spread out over 4 states.
Just to put that in perspective, that would be a disappointing turnout at Michigan Stadium.
Yes.
On a Saturday in fall.
Yes. In 2018, in the next election, he lost 40 House seats. In 2020, he didn't lose. But we are told that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. Okay? So, and then in 2022, the Republican Party comprehensively across the country greatly underperformed expectations given the environment, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that all that mean? It means that he has his entry into the race peaked. His political potency from an electoral standpoint peaked in 2016. It has not been a force multiplier for the Republican Party. Now, I would have different reasons for saying that than say Fox and Friends would. They would. I don't give a crap about any of that crap. It's not about that. I would actually argue he wasn't mean enough. He didn't actually do enough of the stuff he said he was going to do. And so he still got labeled, he still got radioactively branded anyway, right? So you might as well just do the stuff. If you're going to get radioactively branded anyway, don't get radioactively branded and then Jared Kushner eunuch yourself at the same time. That you can't do. Choose one or the other, okay? Be one or the other. Be the eunuch and then broaden your support. Or if you don't want to do that, then follow through on the stuff that you threatened them with and pissed them all off that you didn't follow through on. I go back to the day that they brought a bunch of my colleagues to the White House because this was the time that Trump was going to finally defy the courts. And it's when they told him, it was something to do with the census, if I remember right? The courts tried to tell him he couldn't only have a census that only counted citizens or something along the, I can't remember exactly what it was. So they do this event at the White House. A bunch of my colleagues get invited because they told us all that they're going to Trump's going to make an announcement. We're telling the courts to take a hike. Never happened. Back down again. And so, of course, because that was out there, though, what was on MSNBC and CNN for the 24 hours before the event? They're out there just flamethrowing the place, right? I mean, they got their entire base, man, convinced, all right, that Trump is literally about to declare martial law and go full President Snow, right? Mm-hmm. How many times do we play this episode out when he was president? Then he didn't follow through. Did MSNBC, CNN, and all their outlets go back to their people and say, false alarm? He's really not the authoritarian we told you. Did they do that? No, they just went on. But he did depress his own people by not following through. That happened a ton. So don't do that. Be one or the other. Be Jared Kushner or the guy you claim to be at your rallies. But then doing that and then completely mobilizing the other side at DEFCON 1 against you, and then handing your presidency over to Jared Kushner. But Daddy, whatever her name was, I don't even remember the daughter. Anthony Fauci, Debbie Birx, that you can't do. And that's why he wasn't a force multiplier in the Republican Party. That's not the answer they'll give you on Fox and Friends. They'll tell you it's because of mean tweets. So that's not even in dispute. Those numbers are what they are. That's not in dispute. He's not a force multiplier. So in this scenario, I absolutely think he'd get beaten soundly. Unfortunately, I think he'd get beaten soundly. You guys don't want me to ask Daniel in a few minutes what he would do if the election were Trump and RFK Jr. You don't want me to ask him that. I've not asked him, but I bet you I know what his answer is. So you probably don't want to know what it is. I don't know if RFK Jr. is the Democratic nominee. Whom does Trump win over to the Republican side? Who? Can you think of anybody? What's the faction?
Well, I have a different take on this. He can't.
Now, that being all said, they will kill RFK Jr. before they allow him to be the nominee of the Democratic Party.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, that's the actual analysis. This won't happen. He wouldn't live to see this occur. Okay. They don't mind killing Kennedy. So let's just kill him too. But that won't happen. Okay. But by golly, if he had Pope-like Swiss Guard protection and got to November on the ballot with Donald Trump, I don't think there's much of a chance at all that Donald Trump would win.
Oh, they would third party him. The left would rather have Trump be president of the United States than RFK.
I could see that scenario too now that you mentioned that. Yeah.
You cannot have, it's a cult. The magical power of vaccines is what it is. Kennedy this is impossible. He cannot be their candidate. He won't be. They would rather just use Trump as their slump buster for 4 years. I promise you.
Before we get out of here, we'll hang out in the overtime and do the rest of these in overtime today on blazetv.com/Deace. If you are fed up with companies like Netflix trying to groom your kids, unfortunately, there's not a lot of places you can go to avoid doing business with people who hate you. One of them, though, is with a product we all have to use in this day and age. That's our mobile phones. One of the leaders in the parallel economy is Patriot Mobile, America's only truly American mobile phone company left, and they can offer you dependable coverage on all 3 major networks. You can switch anytime, no extra cost. If you end up moving someplace where one network's better than the other, they'll help you make that switch, absolutely, at Patriot Mobile with their outstanding customer service team. PatriotMobile.com/Steve is where you want to go. Use the offer code Steve for a free activation today at PatriotMobile.com/Steve or call them at 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT. More in a moment. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. You know you don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health anymore. There is a holistic solution for men that promotes both healthier hair and whole body wellness at all. It's called Nutrafol. It is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve hair growth, thickness, visible scalp damage as well. Nutrafol's hair growth nutraceuticals go beyond genetics to multi-target the root causes of your thinning hair. It's a drug-free, patented technology, provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your physical health or your sexual health at the exact same time. That can be an issue sometimes when it comes to combating your hair loss. In clinical studies, men showed progressive improvement in hair growth and thickness after 3 and 6 months. It's also trusted, recommended by more than 3,000 doctors. So you can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol, Nutrafol.com/men, .com/men. Use the promo code DACE. And you'll save $15 off your first month's subscription. $15 off at Nutrafol.com/men, Nutrafol.com/men, promo code DACE. Let's bring in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. It is good to see you again, my friend. Also my co-author for the best-selling book, Rise of the Fourth Reich, Confronting COVID Fascism with a New Nuremberg Trial, so that this never happens again. We are coming up, this is our last show of the week, taking the rest of the week off for spring break. So we're coming up tomorrow on the 3-year anniversary of the dumbest and most immoral management decision in all of human history, lockdowns, which was then followed by the dumbest and most dangerous and reckless, I think, domestic policy decision of my lifetime, Operation Warp Speed, as the body count from that continues to rise. We're still not out of all of this. The repercussions for it, what we're seeing going on economically, of course, the repercussions for what the decisions that were made and put into motion there in March and April of 2020, we may never fully recover from in our lifetimes or in the next generation, Daniel. So your thoughts as you look back on now the 3-year anniversary and where we are 3 years later.
You know, Steve, this has about 5 different prongs. There's the creation of the virus with the gain of function, the creation of the side-by-side bioweapon, the autocratic, undemocratic lack of representative democracy where they can do whatever they want without your consent to your body, your life, liberty, property, your breathing holes. So there was that element of it. Obviously, the censorship element of it, the denial of treatment. You look at each bucket, and 3 years later, at a federal level, we have not rectified a single one of them. And beyond 2 or 3 states so far, almost all of these issues have not been rectified in a single state at all. Fun fact, lockdowns. I mean, it's universally panned. Even Democrats don't want to embrace it at this point. But that wasn't our H.R. 1 in the United States House. I mean, to this day, there is no bill precluding that from happening again. They did vote to terminate Biden's existing emergency declaration, but all those powers that were utilized, and likewise at a state level, we've gotten voted down in most states. So, Steve, I guess it hasn't gotten bad enough. My lesson, my big picture lesson 3 years later is it obviously wasn't bad enough. And I caught a glimpse of your last hour. It was pretty epic, Steve, but, you know, I think you're onto this. A lot of people have a lot of time on their hands for levity. It clearly is not bad enough. That we're not serious about understanding the times we live in and what is it, you know, knowing what ought to be done for Israel. A verse at the end of Chronicles, we need those who know what time it is and what ought to be done. That's what you do when you're in existential crisis. But I think a lot of our colleagues, Steve, don't view it the way we do. You know, they worked from home. They lived through it. Wasn't pleasant. We're beyond it now. There's a lot of other political fodder to focus on. And clearly it wasn't bad enough because we did not get that catharsis that we needed. And I always thought that if we did suffer through something like this, which, by the way, I could have never envisioned, my worst premonition did not reach the ankles of what actually occurred. You know, almost as many people who died in the Civil War wound up being killed by the vaccines, likely so far, with many more looming long-term threats. The FDA just approved yesterday 4 shots for kids 6 to 10 months. It hasn't gotten bad enough. The beatings will continue. That's the enduring lesson 3 years later.
Your thoughts on earlier this week, Gretchen Whitmer, of all people, showed what's smaller than an atom. I was going to say a morsel. An atom, that's like the smallest particle, right? I'm trying to remember from chemistry class back in the day. Isn't an atom, right? The smallest particle? Okay. Showed an atom, ATOM, an atom of self-awareness about the decisions that she made in March involving lockdowns. Okay. That is an atom more of self-awareness and reflection that we have seen out of Donald Trump the last few years. It reminds me of Mitt Romney after he lost in 2008. We had all kinds of major policy battles against the Obama administration in those ensuing years. He never, despite after dropping out of the 2008 primary, and he was National Review's new Reagan, he never was there in those ensuing years during the Tea Party era. He never showed up, never lifted a finger really to help us on any of the major policy existential battles that the Obama administration launched against our way of life. I mean, Trump has helped us get a few decent people elected, like a J.D. Vance. A lot of his other candidates that would have been good, like Kari Lake, did not get elected. Beyond that, though, he's used no political leverage at all to help us on any of the substantive policy battles post-COVID, really on any level at all. None. If anything, he was out touring the country with Bill O'Reilly and promoting the clot shot. So I'm being asked, you're being asked, let's just all forget all the policy decisions that he made in 2020 and run it back. I'm not good at that. And I don't want to be. How about you?
Steve, I think your analogy to Mitt Romney was even stronger. The consummate issue of our time in that 2012 election was what?
Obamacare. Yeah.
Obamacare.
Yeah.
He was the grandfather of Obamacare. So we nominated for our team the grandfather of the consummate issue of our time. So I would argue the issue of our time, the life, liberty, property issue, is the biomedical tyranny, surveillance, experimentation state, which again, it's accelerating. It's accelerating. And what are we going to nominate? I mean, he wasn't a bystander. This guy, this very day, I think it was the 15th. It was over the weekend, 14th, 15th of March. He was in the Oval Office with Mike Pence, Debbie Birx, Fauci, and Scott Gottlieb. Scott Gottlieb was his guy, the Pfizer guy, who was the FDA administrator. And he wasn't a victim of this. He supported it. And it wasn't a matter of, I don't begrudge someone for even those 15 days. It went on and on and on, and we begged him. And like you said, to this day, I have not heard him repudiate lockdowns. I think as late as maybe 12 to 15 months ago, I have to get the exact date, he was still saying his lockdowns, not just the vaccines, but the lockdowns saved millions of people. And then I don't think he said anything more in the last maybe year or so, but I haven't heard him walk that back. I mean, there's not a single element of it that he opposed. He says he doesn't like mandates, but that kind of falls on deaf ears because, of everything he's promoting. Steve, I don't get it.
What was 15 days to flatten the curve? That wasn't a mandate? You can't don't go to bars and restaurants. Don't leave your home. Don't be around more than 10 people at a time. That sounds very mandatey to me. You?
And Steve, I'm trying to dig up the tweet here as I'm talking to you, but the reality is Trump. It was April. It was mid-April. He tweeted that the media and the fake news is trying to say that it's the governors responsible for opening up. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake about it, I'm the one in charge. See, right now they want to try to say, it was the state decision. Like he just kind of left everything to the state. At the time, that's not what he said, which is really emblematic of broadly what his campaign is. His campaign is that he is the alpha man, that end step on that Candyland board is electing Donald Trump for president 2024. Nothing else matters. That's how we're going to save the republic. But at the same time, he actually was at the top of that Candyland board for 4 years while the most pivotal events not just happened, but he orchestrated them. He orchestrated the fiscal and monetary stimulus. He bragged about the near zero interest rates that created this inflation crisis that Republicans universally talk about. They don't talk about the died suddenly, but they do talk about the economy. He created that. It's not just that he was hoodwinked, but let's just go along with it. He was hoodwinked. I mean, that deep state was just too much for him. But let me tell you, I mean, this is the only way forward. I don't understand it. I mean, they're literally running like it's 2016. It's literally as if he was never president. It's as if Ron DeSantis was never governor in one direction, and in the other direction, he was never president.
How do we respond to that, do you think? I mean, let's just be, because you and I don't know any other way, let's be very blunt. It's probably not great for business for you and I to be pointing out what we're pointing out right now. Let's just be blunt about that.
No. I get those messages all the time. I'm sure you do. You could say the exact same thing, but just don't mention it. It's Fauci and Birx and Gottlieb and Mike Pence. Birx was the
help me understand, because I'm not in that world at all.
That was Mike Pence's fault.
Right. I'm not in that world at all. You are. You've been a guest on War Room. I have a lot of respect for Steve Bannon's intellect. Help me understand how I go from forging an alliance with Naomi Wolf to itemize. All of the devil in the details of this jab, but then turn right around. And my response to that is to say, Western civilization is over if Donald Trump isn't reelected president again. Help me. I don't understand that. That's a disconnect just from a Christian worldview. I'm just not permitted to do that. You know what I mean? Like, my Lord says, you're not permitted to do stuff like that. Don't do that. Okay? So that's the double-minded man, unstable in all of his ways. I don't understand it. Help me to understand it.
They have mouths and do not speak, and they have eyes that do not see in Psalms. I mean, this was the old age pagan idolatry. That's literally what it was. It's kind of like the New York Department of Health putting out the fact that you're more likely to get COVID if you had a booster, so make sure you get a booster to protect from COVID. It's these people that will say, hey, a doctor will say, hey, you got myocarditis from the first shot. Well, got nothing to lose. You may as well get the second one as well. It's the same thing politically. It's right in front of you. But I think, Steve, this will be very telling. Because there's no excuses anymore. There's no false, like, what's this, or but the Democrats, or this, but the establishment, even though he empowers the establishment. I just had Chris McDaniel on my show. You know, we got literally two leftist Mississippi senators that are Mitch McConnell butt boys because of him, and it didn't have to be that way. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you respond to it, and I think it's going to be more in line with overwhelming his letters to Trump with a blueprint and the courage to fight for freedom. I think that the title of their two respective books really says it all. I don't know how much pointing out and reopening up the fact that while Ron DeSantis formed the Freedom Caucus to fight Paul Ryan's budget sellouts, Trump was championing and then signing every Paul Ryan budget bill that had more Democrat than Republican support in Congress because it funded every woke and weaponized agency that went on to do what it's doing today at higher levels than Obama did. I don't think that's going to work. I mean, the facts, it's a fact-free zone. They're really a political parallel to the COVID fascists. Facts don't matter, but I think you need to present an alternative worldview that is so compelling that it just ropes most people into it. Obviously, you're going to have the Twitter bots that are forever going to be with him, those that came of prominence to him. Their reputation is tethered to him. See, I mean, Steve, you and I, we're not tethered to anyone.
Right.
Because my Candyland board doesn't have Ron DeSantis entering the White House as the top step there. Because I think we think that, dude, that's too little too late. It ain't going to do much. It's more, well, how do we get a movement and a party that's reflective of his vision and courage times 10 in every red state? That's kind of our purview. I'm under no illusion that, oh, not Trump, but the same kind of idea, just do it with DeSantis. I'm under no illusion that that's going to turn things around. Like you said, we're not going to save this country. You have to defeat it to save our freedom.
Good to see you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Take care. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. And thank you again for all the work that you did with us on this book project. Extremely important. Thank you. Who is Toure?
Oh, he's some wokester on Twitter.
Okay.
Some internet influencer.
Because I just saw he tweeted, so it just showed up my feed. He just said, I still have not found one conservative who's able to define woke. Because is it Bethany Mandel or Mandel? Mm-hmm. I don't know who she is. I don't know her, never met her, don't know anything about her. But she apparently was on some national show and couldn't define woke as a right-winger.
I never even heard the show she was on before either, but I'm familiar with Bethany Mandel.
I think it's The Hill Morning Rising or something like that. The Hill has some sort of web TV show.
Oh, okay. Well, that would explain why I've never heard of her.
Exactly.
Nor them. Anyway, I decided to take Toure's challenge. So I tweeted back at him. The latest iteration of a demonic agenda of racial, moral, gender, and epistemological deconstruction / nihilism with the same intent as all of its previous iterations, the eradication of Western civilization. How's that for a definition? Will that work? Or that's okay?
Yeah.
Didn't he say that woke is just a more pleasant way of saying the N-word?
Is that his game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not supposed to say that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's what you just said it was. And
yeah.
So there's that.
So if you're a white kid and you listen to the rap albums where they drop the N-bomb and you made a video of it and we find out about it years later, your life is over.
Correct.
If you refused to listen to the music because it drops N-bombs, then you're a racist and your life is over then too.
You're
basically just a racist no matter what you do, period.
And if you made a video about it, but you left the N-words out of it, that's cultural appropriation.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's quite the game you guys got going there. Quite the scam.
Yeah, we're being routed.
Yes, we are. we need a break. And I think after today, so do all of you. Right? We'll see you on Monday, John 3:17.